an explanation either, huh?
Something happened, life happens as part of the journey.
Always, especially when you're doing a live show.
Yes.
But we like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So I think lots of people think love is all about feelings. Certainly us lady types, because we have lots of feelings about everything all the time. And certainly about love, about who we love and who might love us and why they don't and why they might. And which is why we're going to talk about how to practice getting better at figuring out love and your love and their love, and that it's not just this is how I feel. That I tell
Right.
people, and Barry and I talked about this, about if you could start out dating from the neck up and pay no attention from the neck down just for a little while, it might go a little smoother. So we're going to chat about that today.
Yes.
Oh, I have to say, oh, yay. Welcome to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast, #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
So here I have my new Western hat, Target hat. I'm on sale. I was very excited to go get it.
Yes, I'm almost jealous. It's like, oh, a hat like that would be cool.
Yeah, I've never had a Western hat that looked like this. I think it's kind of fun. And I love my new hat.
Indeed. You wear it well and definitely loving it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, wow. One of the things that we've talked about so often on our show is anything you want to get better at, a hobby or a sport or your job or raising kids and dating takes practice.
Yep.
And learning about love and what you need and what the other person needs, and are you really compatible, really is so helpful if we practice being a little more intellectual and intentional, even with the feeling part, because often we just run pell-mell into, oh my gosh, we have this feeling and we're so excited about being together. And then we don't talk about the practical parts, which is where the practice comes in. What are your thoughts about that, Barry?
Well, speak from personal experience. I spent a lot of my time, especially in my 20s and probably early 30s, where I definitely thought love was a feeling, where I could feel in love, or if I didn't feel I was in love anymore. And that was my barometer to decide if I was going to be in a relationship or not. I had no clue, to be blunt. And frankly, I'm not alone. I know many, many people who think that's the way love is supposed to be expressed. It's like, how do you feel about it? Rather than how do you practice it? Because had I known then what I know now, my relationships would have gone very differently, of course. But I understand very clearly how we have to put effort in for love to work. And that is a practice. It is a discipline. It is a commitment. Because if you want to be in a relationship with somebody, it isn't just one and done. Like you've arrived, you met that person, like you get married and you put your feet up and that's the rest. That's the rest of your life, which is a challenge because some people do tend to give up once they've arrived, sort of thing. But the reality is that a relationship requires commitment and effort, same as love itself. So you do need to practice connection and intimacy and all those different things to keep love thriving.
So, boy, wouldn't it be helpful to start practicing when you were first dating anybody, a variety of people, and certainly when you wanted to concentrate on one person to keep practicing. What is it that would help you really fall in love with somebody? What's the thing that would make you want to be close? What's the thing that you now feel like they see me, I see them? That really does take practice figuring out for yourself what's important to you. And then certainly it takes a while to learn about the other person, not just what they say, but how do their actions, do they balance? Are they the same as what they say? Is it completely different? That practicing watching that, practicing asking, practicing observing is pays off so much in the long run. And then you've built the foundation to do the thing that Barry so eloquently said, that you can now keep doing that kind of practicing to keep the relationship going. Because if you haven't learned how to do it before, you're probably not going to be very good at it after you're in a relationship.
In fact, I'll go one step further or one step earlier and say, how you practice loving with yourself, meaning how do you take care of yourself? How do you do caring things for yourself? And practice loving actions so you feel what it feels like to be in loving space. Because, yes, love is a feeling in the sense that you experience what it feels like to be in love, but it's maintained and improved by the practice of working with it. And so, as a single person, which I talk a lot with my clients because most of us are single, including myself, is like how do we do loving things for yourself? How do we practice being loving and kind to ourselves and also to others? Because you don't have to be in a relationship with somebody to be kind. You can go and be of service somewhere. You can be opening the door for somebody. You can be doing other things. There's somebody in front of you in the line in the grocery store. These are loving acts that are practices. So you can practice loving actions independent of being in a romantic relationship, just in case you want some feeling like if you're saying, well, when it gets a relationship, I'll worry about it then. It's like, no, think about it doing it now.
And I love that you brought up such an important foundational piece. It's how I named my company. You learn how to be the perfect catch, and then you'll attract the perfect catch. So, how do you feel loved?
Yeah.
What kinds of things can you do for yourself that make you feel like you're being loving to yourself, being kind to yourself? I've spoken to, as I was one of these women, and I've spoken to lots of women and men who we would never speak to our best friend sometimes the way we speak to ourselves. It's a very unloving, unkind way that we can often speak to ourselves. When we have this ideal of someone who could never be that person, but we put ourselves up against them, and we're often giving ourselves this grief and hard time about, well, you can't do that and you aren't that, where we're not appreciating, well, what am I instead? Aren't I some good things already? And I could be better at some things, because I've really learned personally and professionally that how big we can expand how much we care about ourselves, love ourselves, not in an arrogant, narcissistic way, but a kind. I'm a human being, and I'm going to feed myself well. I'm going to move my body well. I'm going to only be around people that are kind to me. I'm going to set up some boundaries. The more you learn to do that, the more you can receive it from another person. You can tell them, this is the kind of things that float my boat. And is it something that works for you? Because even the most loving person can only give as much as we've got room for. And so we get to stretch having more room to be loved if we can make ourselves feel more loved by us.
Yeah. It is such an interesting assumption that people have. But it's just like when the person shows up, then I'll be loving. It's like we don't think about how to do it beforehand. You know, it parallels the idea about how people take care of themselves. And sometimes people will say, you know, I'm going to work out and exercise and get really fit and strong till I meet somebody and make very thin and sexy. When I meet them, I can give that all that stuff up. It's like, yeah, no. You know, the idea being is that you definitely want to do things for yourself that make you feel better about yourself. So yes, exercise as well is one of those self-caring, self-reflective ways of being more loving. So practicing love in those different avenues, different ways can give you the head start you need, because your partner ideally has been doing something similar. And if you want to love them the way you really want to love them, you don't go in cold turkey and go, okay, I'm going to suddenly become loving towards them. I'm going to practice love then. It's like, no, don't wait. Start when you're beforehand, because you can be a better partner. Absolutely. Because I say, you know, you want to be a better partner to attract a better partners. So why not practice loving actions and loving ways of being as a discipline for yourself in all areas of your life, both towards yourself and towards other people? So when you meet somebody, it just expands the arena, makes it more easy to do.
Such a good point. And I have found that the more loving and caring I am about myself, to myself, the more discretion I'm showing in the people that are around me. That I don't want people around that don't treat me the same way. I want people around me that do treat me the same way. And so if I have a barometer that I keep practicing, that I like this kind of attention, I like spending this my time this way, and I'm going to find other people that enjoy that too, not so I turn myself into a pretzel so I can fit in. This is who I am, and do we fit together that way? That the more I've gotten, this is who I am, I'm admitting who I am. I bring a lot of stuff every time I travel. I say that all the time. And if
Yeah.
that's a problem, we can't travel together. So that's really good to know. I think it's because I like having my stuff. That makes me feel very content, very comfortable. I like all my little nesting stuff that I put on the seat in the airplane. And as long as somebody doesn't care or they think it's kind of interesting, I can travel with them. But if they think this wrong and why and how come and I don't like it, then they're not my person to travel with. I could maybe go to the movies with them, but I can't get get on an airplane with them or maybe even in a car. So
Right.
admitting and acknowledging and being kind to yourself about why am I like this? Why does it make me my best person? And then you say to the other person, this is who I am. Tell me who you are. Does this mesh? And that's how you practice. You practice admitting who you are and you practice saying it out loud. And then you are fine with whatever the other person says. Whatever they say is fine with me. Just how close or far do I need to spend with them?
Mm-hmm. In fact, you said something there that really reminded me is the fact that, again, different practices for what love is about when you're practicing love. One of those things is having healthy boundaries, because it is tempting sometimes when you're feeling loving, when you want to be loving, to overgive or to over receive and not keep it healthy boundaries. And part of the work as a healthy individual is to create those sort of boundaries, which means that you learn how to say no with care. Not just no, never going to do that sort of thing, but how do you say love? How do you say no in a respectful, caring way? Because that's part of what practicing love is about. It isn't all about saying yes to everything or being kind all the time. Because the things when you set healthy boundaries and you say no, that can be very kind. But it's those sort of nuances of what the practice of love is about that is what this is what our conversation is about. But also how to be a better partner really comes about is when you start learning how to be the navigator of your own life in a way that's very healthy.
Our rudder is intact because often if we're just going with a feeling, we'll the waves will kind of push us around because, well, how does that person feel? How do I feel? Which is so our emotions are in motion all the time. We're generally, our thoughts are pretty solid. If we've really practiced our thoughts, this is my solid thought about it. And what do you think? What do you think about that? Now, within all of that, once you've made this framework, you can have all sorts of feelings, as we women do. Allison's lately talking about how we have pancakes inside of us, stacked up with all of our feelings about everything all the time. Cracked me up. It made so much sense to me. How you guys are just like one thing at a time because you're single focus, and ours is like, oh, I'm happy about this and sad about that and frustrated about all at the exact same time. So when I have my boundaries and I know this is the thing that's going to make me the most comfortable, I can have access to all those feelings and they're not going to push me out of my normal boundaries. I can maneuver inside of them. This is the kind of support I need inside of this with my feelings. I need you to be okay with me bringing a lot of stuff. And it'd be even better if you want to drag my suitcase instead of me, but I'm fine even taking it. But you need to know comments, no negative comments. And I love talking about that because I'll be sad and mad, and you won't like traveling with me if I'm sad and mad. Where if you don't make a negative comment, I'll be happy. Generally, most of the time we're traveling. So I acknowledge my feelings within these boundaries that I have practiced for a very long time, since I've always brought a lot of stuff and used to spend a lot of time apologizing.
Yeah, but that's a proof about how when you are practicing love, you have healthy boundaries, but also you have healthy self-respect. So you do have these the way you do things.
Mm-hmm.
As you said earlier, it's like when you feel like you're going to have to be a pretzel for somebody, which I know that's what I did when I was younger too. You know, what do you want, honey? I'll be whatever you want. I'll do a certain thing a certain way, whatever you need. It was to please that person, please her, not for me to take care of myself. And so the relationship was very one-sided ultimately, not because she was being in control. I gave up my own role in that relationship, and happened a couple of times. So to practice loving as an intentional act in all the ways you are functioning, including, again, setting up boundaries, being clear what does work and what doesn't work, so you can be whole and healthy and not take things personally from the other person, to quote the four agreements, can give you a different level, can give you a leg up on how to be a better partner so your relationship success improves drastically.
Yes. The practice of saying what's true for you is so respectful and so not personal. That's the thing where our feelings are very personal. I would always say all my feelings are very personal. And
Yes.
all your feelings are very personal yours. It's the thing we get in trouble with is when I take your feelings personally, when they sometimes have nothing to do with me.
Right.
And then my feelings are up in a roar and yours are up in a roar. And sometimes they have nothing to do with me. They have nothing to do with my feelings. We're having different feelings. And if we know where we stand with our feelings when we've got these boundaries around them, that's when we can have a conversation about, well, gosh, when you said that, it seemed like you were sounding really angry and it hurt my feelings. Tell me more about that. And then he goes, no, I was really passionate about it. I wasn't angry at all. I was really enthusiastic. Really? Okay. Then my feeling is now, oh, I can get on board with that. But if I
Right.
just go with my feeling and I don't say, I don't want somebody to speak to me the way I thought it was, I'm just going to check because if it was, I'm really going to have words about it. But maybe it wasn't because it seemed odd from this person. And it turned out it wasn't. So I was taking something personally that wasn't the truth, but it was good because I've now learned, because I used to take, oh my God, my feelings were hurt all the time about everything. Lots of it had nothing to do with me. That I've now learned it's so much better for me and for the people around me if I go, just checking. This is what it seemed to me. What was really going on? And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I like being proved wrong a lot. It's been lovely.
I mean, this is really, how to be a better human being. Ultimately, to learn that, to learn where, in a way, learning where you end and the other person starts, and having those emotional well-being, so to speak, as a way of how to be in life. The challenge I find for a lot of times is that way, where we don't recognize that when somebody's upset, it's nothing to do with us. And also, when we get upset, it's nothing to do with anybody else. And that delineation, that boundary again, as earlier, such a key learning. And when you get to the point where you can have that autonomy, where when somebody gets upset and it doesn't disturb your peace, even a primary partner, is a huge step forward for somebody in a relationship, because that's not the easiest place to play. But when you do that, you can be in a much healthier place to be there for them. And because sometimes people think you're going to be sympathetic. We talked about sympathy and empathy in shows many times before, and that trap of falling into, like, I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm not going to do anything to help you, but that's what you is sympathy that way. It's like, no, being whole and being solid in yourself is empathy. It's how to be in a place to be whole, and it does raise the bar for your relationship quality going forward.
Yeah, I was reminded another one of my wonderful Tony stories the first time we traveled internationally, and we'd already been together a little while, that he knew my Achilles heel is if I haven't had enough to eat or enough sleep, I'm pretty crappy. As lovely as I am when I've had both of those things in plenty, I am really crappy. And we went to Germany for his uncle's favorite special person in his life's funeral. And I was this horrible, crabby person when we arrived at the house. At least there was only one other person there. I wasn't meeting the whole family yet. And he took one look at me and said, come with me, please. And he put me to bed. He knew because I don't sleep well on planes. He slept the whole time. He was so rested, and I had not. I mean, it was a long time of being awake, over 24 hours. And so he knew Christine just needs to sleep like a 2-year-old. So I'm putting her to bed, and then I'm going to have something for her to eat when she wakes up. And then I was like, oh my God, I feel so much
So simple, so simple.
because we had already practiced. I
Right.
take responsibility generally in my life to make sure I'm eating enough and sleeping enough. And this did not happen on the plane at all. I watched a lot of fun movies. And he went, oh, yeah, this is my lovely wife who I adore. And I'm not going to take this personally that she's being really bitchy. I just know she'll come with me and I'll be gentle and cover in this love. Oh, the comforter in the bed was just, those German people have great linens. And oh my God, I was such a better person. So when you've practiced with yourself and you've said out loud, and the person that loves you and you love them says, aha, I recognize this. I know what to do. And it was such a caring, loving thing because I didn't feel good inside being that way. I was not in shape to fix it. I didn't even know I needed to go to bed. I just knew I was,
Wise husband, yes.
yeah.
Um, and being a loving action towards our radio station. Should we do a wrap up before the commercial break?
What a cool way to go into the commercial break. I love it. Yes, we're going to take a commercial break for the new streamingnetwork.com, who puts on our shows and distributes our podcast. And then we'll be right back to talk more about love as a practice, not a feeling.
See you in a moment.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about love is truly practice so you get better at it and not going just on your feelings. It will just lead you down a path of generally not very happy with yourself. And I found I picked so much better friends and love interests when I started dating from my neck up, when I started really being clear about what's important to me, what are the things that I need to give me, that I need somebody else to give me, and I need to like them. That was important. That was part of my boundary, that I needed to like them as a person. And I had specific things I would learn about them, but not the chemistry and the butterflies. And yeah, I took a vow. I've told it many times. In 2001, I went, I am going to not date that way anymore. I'm going to date differently. And it's amazing because that's how I met my late husband. And you've talked about that same journey too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way I want to break it down for a second is between practice and feeling, is that if you think love is a feeling, it's like basically being on the ocean and having no control over where you're going. It comes and it goes up and down. You have no idea. And frankly, love is, I'll say a harsh mistress, but love is, I'm going to say, but love is like that. It doesn't, you don't have dominion. When you practice loving, then you have dominion over it. And in a sense, you have more ability to make it happen for yourself the way you want to. And absolutely, it is about practicing different things that make you feel more loving towards yourself and other people. So yes, you can feel loving, but it's through the practice of loving that makes it work best. And that's really what this whole show is really talking about: is how do you do things? How do you support yourself? How do you become a better partner for yourself, so that you basically feel what loving is about? So when you are out there meeting other people, you keep practicing that, and you keep your I'm not saying your guard up, but like you were saying, like from neck up, it's like not being swayed by your loins, for example,
Yeah.
when you meet somebody, because you want something deeper than that. Now, if it's all you want, fine. But if you want real loving relationship, you want to practice how to love from the whole being of who you are, and particularly from how you drive it, which is with your mind.
And anything you want to get better at it, you have to practice. It's been a big conversation this week with clients. And I said, think about the Olympic athletes. Generally, they practice 8 hours a day, every day, and they're
Mhm.
at the top of their game. And yet they still need to practice every day for 8 hours. So if you want to get better at loving yourself and finding love, then learning a practice that gives you more loving attention to yourself and figuring out what kind of attention do I need from another person? How close can they be? I'm going to do some little testing. I'm going to find out, do they care about my feelings? Do they care about my boundaries? Do they want to open all my doors all the time? It's so helpful. And I love that you talked about a boat, because if often we don't understand that if you're not a sailing person or any kind of a boat person, there needs to be a rudder. The only way you can steer a boat is there's thing or things, depending on how big it is, under the water that you can now turn left or right and make determinations that you can go a different way, even though the wind, you can go a different way, even though the water. That if you don't have a rudder, which is what your practice of loving yourself is, then the feeling's going to just send you crazy person. You're going to just go all over the world. Like I was in Germany. I was so not my best self. That when you are now practiced at, oh, this is how I can be my best self in this situation. And what kind of people do I want to be with me that have the same sensibility from the neck up, that I like them, but I like them from the neck up. I'm not liking them from the neck down. That's a whole different kind of liking that eventually I will explore. But in the beginning, I have to like how they think, what their morals are, what they're doing with the world, how they treat other people. You can watch how they treat other people. That's the practicing. Oh, I like this. So I'm going to pay more attention to that. I'm going to surround myself with more people like that. Oh, I didn't realize this person in my life never does that. Maybe I shouldn't have them in my life or not so close. And it helps you keep sorting people out. But the only way you're going to get good at it is to keep practicing. And the other part of practicing is nobody's good in the beginning. It's all harder. It's harder when it's brand new. I don't want
Right.
to do it because it's hard. Well, I'm telling you, if you really were going to get a raise or get a degree, no matter how hard it was, you'd keep doing it. So you just have to decide, I want to get better at this. I want to have a happier life for me, and I want to find a happy partner for me. Then practice, please.
That is so key. And additional to that is the fact that when you are practicing loving with yourself, you might discover people around you who you no longer want to be around. Because part of this act
Mm-hmm.
also is choosing your circle of friends, your connections of love that are out in the world. And like you were saying, it is such a key thing because it's so easy to discover, I should say, it's so painful to discover, because it's one of those I had to learn as well, is I found myself in circles of people who didn't act loving towards each other, did not show how to be loving in their practice towards each other and towards me. And I realized I was putting up with stuff that didn't serve me. And it came to a point where I just said, I need to walk away because I knew that I need to be around more loving people who practice loving themselves, same as I wanted to do and keep doing. And so it is going to be and it may have an impact in your social life, to be transparent, because you're going to have things happen where you might discover the people you've been hanging out with all the time because maybe you go drinking with them all the time. Now you don't drink anymore, something like that. It shifts the whole paradigm, so you can't do that anymore. So learning that being more loving and choosing to be practicing loving in your life, even when you're single, is going to impact your life in bigger ways than you expected. So you want to be ready.
Such a good point. I mean, I have clients that are recovered from drugs and alcohol. And so we talk about how they're always going to be in recovery. They're always still practicing every day not to do whatever the thing is. And what's been fascinating, and I've learned this for such a long time, and it's been for me as well, that when you now practice being nicer to yourself, the people that aren't being nice to themselves or nice to you really show up. And what a different circle of friends you might end up with. And that if you are being more conscious of it, then you'll more effortlessly be able to sort out your friends. One of the things that when I started practicing really even more understanding why men do the things they do and that they're really lovely that they're doing it and stop being upset about it. I cannot sit in a group of women that only want to bash all men. I just can't. It's painful for me. And that
Right.
if I put out my little, could you imagine there might be another way to think? And if there's anybody that says yes, I'll stay. And if everybody says no, they're all shits, I can't stay anymore. And I've left some groups that I thought I was enjoying because of the things that we did. It became too big of a problem for me to sit listening to how horrible they thought men were.
I've had
So
a
I
similar,
recovered that now.
yes, I was gonna say, a similar thing on a different paradigm where around groups of men that I were friends with who basically, when a woman walked by, were just like hoot and holler or lust after them or lech after them. And I had a similar thing where basically it was like, do you not have respect? I mean, I got kicked out of some circles, and that wasn't a bad thing that happened because I wasn't willing to play the game with them. And so to have choice over who you choose to hang out with, either side of the paradigm, because we're talking about different paradigms here, it's really important for us to know what we value because part of, again, loving practice is what's important to us. What do we value? What do we care about? And then find people who mirror that and match that
Mhm,
because you want to be around people who speak the same language you do.
mhm.
So, yeah, for you and me both had that lesson.
It was so startling. And so then practicing with family members who you might have to move farther out or sort it out that you could still be close. And then you move to friends and colleagues that if you practice with them first, then you can be a little more practiced when you're now around somebody that could be a love interest. So
Hmm.
still staying from the neck up about, well, I'm a recovered of these. What are they doing? Do they generally like how women think? Do they generally are they curious why we're different? Are they kind to, my big thing is, are they kind to the servers? The other day somebody told me that normally they'll say, when a server comes up and says, what do you want, and they say, I'd like to know what makes you happy, and they're
Mm.
all startled and they all answer.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, that's kind of I mean, he's a friend, but not a dating person. But I thought, oh, I would be so impressed if a man across the table from me said that. And he really cared about what made that person happy. I was like, well, that's a very cool question to ask. So to just stay aware and alert of, here's the things that I need in my life, and are they that? And will they bring, what I found with my husband is he brought things to my life I didn't even know I wanted, and now I want them more.
Well, that's one of the gifts about being somebody new, is that they bring a whole different life experience to you that you didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing also is, it doesn't matter how old you are, you don't have everything under your belt of experience. You're going to have new things. So
Mm-hmm.
be willing to explore new things. That's a whole another topic. But the idea being is that life is an adventure anyway. And so, again, back to the loving practice again for a second. I've been dedicated for service for a long time, and we talked about this in other episodes about how you make difference and go out and have impact in the world. That to me is a loving act. That's a practice of loving I do with things that sometimes make me uncomfortable, especially physically sometimes when I'm lugging heavy stuff, when I'm working around the food stuff. But there's this, the thing about doing that is it expands my ability to love. And that's the thing I want to say about love as a practice, is however you do express love, whether it is through having healthy boundaries or going out and serving somewhere or having new circles of friends and choosing away from other friends, what you're doing is you're expanding your ability to love. And frankly, if you're looking for having a healthy relationship, wouldn't you want your partner to do that for you? So why not do it in the first place?
That's a very good philosophy of things to look for sure. And
Yes.
if you're just going on your feelings, you don't have a really good overall self barometer of, if you're just, well, did that make me feel good? Did that make me feel bad? To keep going, and what do I think about that too?
Yeah.
Bring in your intellect at the same time. Well, that made me feel bad. Why? Because I hadn't had enough sleep, or because they were mean, or because they have a really different outlook than I did and I didn't realize that we just can't get caught up in the feeling, even when it's a really good feeling. Why is this making me feel good? Is there a foundation to this? Is this sustainable? That if we just stay with the feeling, it's not sustainable at all. That we need to involve, how is this landing with all of me? How is this landing in my thoughts? How is it a landing in my future thinking? And if we just go on, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Gosh, I feel great right now in a relationship. I think that's when lots of people get in a lot of trouble. And 6 months down the road, they go, there's this thing. I didn't even know about this thing. Well, because you didn't go up in your head and go, let me learn about more of why I feel this way with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it. One of the things about doing this is that you tend to find your own like alignment to where you're going and what your own sort of circle of people to be with. You mentioned earlier about how friendship circles will change. I know in my own life, I won't say the word evolved isn't right the word, but I've certainly outgrown certain circles of friendship, certain ways of being, and yes, certain ways of being in a relationship, which is why I do this work. I've been doing this work for a long time. The act of loving and practicing love as a daily or a weekly or as a continual discipline is you start to discover things are going to change for you. But the thing is, you don't feel knocked off center by it. In fact, you feel more aligned to it, because when you're being more loving in your life, you discover that you choose things from a higher place. And that's the good news about doing this. So, as you can see, I'm an advocate for this. I want to encourage you to do this, because to be more loving for yourself and to practice that love for yourself in all the areas of your life, not just romantically, but all areas, you will have a much happier life going forward.
Such a good point. And it's a foundation to build the rest of your life on. If you're going to build a house, you need a very firm foundation, and practicing loving yourself, being loving to yourself, only having loving things in your life in general, or ways to move through it when you have a loving person. How do we file back in love again? Is essential. And so practice, practice, practice. We cannot stress enough that it is something to think about daily, every day. What
Yeah.
nice thing can you do for yourself? How is the world landing with me? Is there something I need to do differently so that I feel more cared about by me and then cared about by the people around me? And the more you practice that, the more you'll want it, and the more you'll get better at getting it, and the more you'll look for it and ask for it. And the world's only going to be a better place if more of us did that.
Oh boy, yes, it will be so much better, definitely.
Mhm. A lot of people need to learn how to do more of that, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah,
Well, we just want them all to watch our podcast then and then talk to us.
that's a good start.
So if this is something you're like, gosh, I never thought about it that way, or yeah, I've been thinking about it and I didn't know what to do, Barry and I would be so happy to talk to you. So the way to reach me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and scroll to the middle of the screen, and you'll reach my What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire, and you can schedule a complimentary conversation with me. We'll talk about where you are and where you'd like to be. And you can also join my mailing list, Christine@theperfectcatch.com, from my website as well. And on my website, you can go to the top and download my book. It's a free ebook, and it has 10 years of columns and dating advice that you can peruse and use. I think people told me that the tips are very helpful. You can
Mhm.
also join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat of my podcast every week here with Barry. And then also at the bottom is all my social media, and you can click on YouTube and you'll see all over 270 shows that Barry and I have done together. And how would people reach you, Barry?
They can email you too. Did you say that?
Yes. Oh, yes, the YouTube, and you'll see all 270 of our podcasts. Thank you.
So, similar to Christine, I have a website. You go to my website, which is my name, barryselby.com. And on my site, there are a few things you can check out. At the top of the screen is a button that says Let's Chat, which is the way to get to my calendar. Also, a questionnaire you fill out, and then you get scheduled on my calendar. We have a 20-minute Zoom call to see where you are, what you're looking for, if I can help you, all those sort of things. At the bottom of the screen, there's another place you can opt in, which is to get on my email list. So you can get my weekly emails where I send out a replay of the show as well, and on things I'm working on. And in the middle of the screen, there is a button which takes you to my first of my two assessments, quizzes I call them. One is the basic relationship readiness assessment, and that basically is, are you ready for a relationship? And it asks you some very key questions, and depending on your answers, you'll get feedback from me in an email which explains where you are and what may be ahead of you and how you can get further on, plus an invitation to talk to me. The second assessment is not actually on my site as a button you can click, but you go to barryselby.com/self-quiz, and that's a self-assessment. Basically, as it talks about in the show, like if you practice love with yourself, how is your relationship with yourself? And this deep assessment, the self-quiz, is 7 different areas of your life in terms of your own life, where there may be room for improvement, where you may have some challenges, and basically you get a big downloadable PDF to go with it if you do go through the quiz. So take this self-quiz and the other quiz. Both of them will give you some clarity and guidance and next steps. And after all that, if you want to work with me, reach out to me because I've got lots of things to help you with as well. Additionally to that, there's also my book, which is on the book page of my site. You can go to that from the navigation or go to barryselby.com/book. That book is called 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. It's been out for over a decade now. And if you're not sure if you want to buy it just yet, you can click on a little audio track at the top of that page, which is a recording done by AI of 2 very intelligent sounding voices who have reviewed my book. So you can listen to that. Gives you an idea if you want to get my book, and then you can go ahead and get the book from the links on the page. Social media wise, you can find me at Barry Selby on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube, where all these shows are stored with another 1,000+ videos I've done over the years. If you want to find me on Instagram or Threads, it's the real Barry Selby. And if you want to send me an email, you can send me one at barry@barryselby.com.
Cool. And we do this show live every week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. We'd love to have you join us, and you're welcome to submit questions, and we're happy to answer them on the air. And you can also watch them on repeat on YouTube or Roku. But tell them about the podcast, Barry.
Yes, our show has been now translated into an audio format. So those of you who don't have time to sit and watch our videos but want to take us with you on your favorite podcast platforms, be it Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, find Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and you'll find out all our shows are there. So you can binge listen, or you can just find ones you'll listen to when you're out driving or shopping, wherever you're going. And basically, we're here to help you.
And whether you watch the show or listen to it on podcasts, we'd love for you to like it and subscribe and review us and share it with people in your life that might need some assistance with their dating and relationships. And we'll be back next week with Let's Talk Dating with another interesting subject.
See you then. Take care.
Bye.